Hey, what's going on, everybody? Back again with another video. We're looking at round 3 of the Chennai Masters tournament. Game between Maxime Vachier, Lagrave with the white pieces, and Amin Tabatabaei with the black pieces. So let's get right into it. Game started off from Maxime with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. We quickly end up in this two knights variation where there's many options for white, as I have highlighted. There's the old-fashioned knight g5, for example. d3 can be played, d4, knight c3. So you have a lot of play here. Castle, of course, to choose from. d3 was played, which is most popular move nowadays. d3, and then distant second would be the move knight g5. Computer engines have brought some variations back to life and killed some other variations. And Amin played bishop e7. Again, bishop c5 is also popular, but bishop e7 is probably the most popular right now. And then castles. So we have this very typical position in the two knights game now. Rook e1 is played. One of the ideas of rook e1 is to discourage black in its efforts to play d5 at some points in the game by putting extra pressure on the e file, so that once d5 is played, e takes d5, then you can see that black will then have a problem protecting the e5 square. So d6 is played. Now idea for black is to now that e5 is secured and protected from potential knight takes e5, now he can take his knight on c6, go to a5, and get rid of this bishop lurking on c4. So white plays a4, so that when knight a5 comes, he can retreat his bishop back to a2. In the same idea, move c3 is also played here. So a4, knight a5, bishop a2, and c5. And this position gives me Ruy Lopez Zaitsev variation, or Karpov Zaitsev variation vibes with this c5. Knight often goes back behind the pawn since it's been advanced, and goes back to c6. Only difference being, of course, in the Ruy Lopez, you will have this move a6 and b5 played, which is sometimes weakening moves. That's a big argument in the Ruy, right? Is that a6 b5 a weakness, or the early space gain a strength? And that's a argument that has been contested many thousands of times throughout chess history. But these positions in Ruy Lopez, Yoko Piano, two knights, a lot of themes just merge together, and this is what we see here. So c5 was played, and then Amin played bishop d. Maxime Vachier Lagrave played bishop d2. First of all, please hit the. Just want to take a quick moment to say, please hit that like button. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and I want to say also thank you for being here. And check the box below. I always put all kind of like books and stuff related to the opening videos, things of interest, and of course consider supporting the channel using the links below. So back to the game. Bishop d2 was played. Again, several options here. Knight a3 can be played, for example. c3, of course, is an example that can be played. But in this game, we have bishop d2. one of the ideas here is for white to play knight a3 and c3, with the idea, of course, of advancing on d4 eventually. But sometimes white will also play the idea of c3 and then b4. All right. Another idea too is to get rid of the knight on a5 in some situations. So the knight almost always just goes back to c6. So Lagrave continued his plan, played knight a3 here, and black played a6, which is very playable. Again, we're still in the opening phase, so there's still like a lot of options here, but I'll just share some with you. For instance, bishop g4 can be played, and it's just that it depends on what kind of plan you have and what positions you like to go into. So you already know, once bishop g4 is played, knight d4 is a threat, and so usually white's gonna play h3. So you have to be prepared to either part with the bishop pair by playing bishop takes knight, or having your bishop taking off that c8 h3 diagonal, and then play can continue in this manner. But nothing bad per se, just a different approach. So bishop g4, bishop e6 can also be played, right? Just challenging that bishop on a2 and taking on the double pawns, because they are pretty hard to exploit by white. So it's not like you're just making a bad move and then you've covered up the potential weaknesses on d5 and f5 accordingly, and then you have the f file to attack down. So just wanted to share with you that there's some alternate choices here that are also good. a6 was played, c3, and then again h6 was played, but there are many choices here. Bishop g4, I'm not going to go into all of them again. Bishop e6, right, I just showed you. Even bishop d7, of course, can be played. Very conservative looking move. They don't hurt the position. And a move that I didn't show you, just simply rook b8, and with the idea of playing b5 at one point. And again, like I said, it gives you the Ruy Lopez vibes. It almost transposes into the same position as Zaitsev variation. Some of these lines, for example, like you have here. So h6 was played, h3 by Maxime, and bishop d7 here. Again, different moves could have been knight h5, for example. Even rook e8. And with this old school idea of bishop f8 and trying to get in d5, it'll be hard though, because again, in true Ruy Lopez fashion, that knight will come and swing around e3 and make it hard to get in d5. So for example, bishop f8, knight e3. But these are just ideas inherent in the position. Bishop e6 is still there. Bishop d7 is played. Maxime plays knight c2. Interesting move also here is just b4. Again, you don't always have to play d4 in these type of positions. You see the idea in the Joko piano. Sometimes white will build up for d4, and sometimes he'll play b4, driving the queenside pieces off their squares. Bishop d7 was played, and then knight c2 by Maxime. Once the knight goes away to c2, then black plays bishop e6. And he, it seems that I was trying to get into what he was thinking, and it seems that he didn't want to play bishop e6, of course, because um, early, or even though it was playable, because perhaps he felt that the knight would just come to c4 anyway, and he didn't want to just have the bishop sitting there or trade his bishop on e6 for the knight on c4. So as soon as that knight goes away, then he challenges the bishop here. Again, other choices here, just b5. Right, queen c7. It looks okay because you're connecting the rooks, but you have to be careful in these type of positions where that knight on c2 is gonna go to e3, because now d5 becomes a target. So you have to just be mindful of the center. Again, black is not lost or anything here. It's just that he starts getting pushed back little by little. See, as white would gain space on the queen side. So let's say rook b8, for example. This is a sample line, and you can see that black has to just really start being careful as white just slowly encroaches on his position. This is why they would call it the Spanish torture a long time ago, these Ruy Lopez type positions, because it wasn't like black was just getting crushed from the outset. It was just like a slow, gradual squeeze on the position for 40, 50 moves. But it will start out with things like this and end up in a crushing victory. You just have to be careful. b6 is playable here, along with b5, as I said. And again, it looks like one of these like Zaitsev variations in the Ruy Lopez. But bishop e6 was played in the game. Maxime played knight e3, queen d7, black. It's a matter of preference here. Bishop takes a2 could have been played, putting the rook on the second rank. And eventually that rook is going to have to make up the time and play rook a1 at some point. But the idea here is to play d5. E takes d5, knight takes d5. And now, if a move like knight c4, putting a lot of pressure on the e pawn, black has counterplay against the d pawn. Play can continue. Bishop takes f4, e takes f4. There's rook a1 having to make up for that capturing the bishop. Queen c7, and you have equal game. Both the game still is up for grabs here. Instead of bishop takes a2 here, black just simply played queen d7. And after queen d7, Maxime decided to play the move knight h2, which I feel is a little bit suspect, because it takes his attention off the center at a crucial time. Bishop c4 could have been played. I just keeping the pressure on here and not allowing that trade. Bishop takes a2 where the rook would lose time. That's the purpose of bringing the bishop up here, by the way, to c4, so that after bishop takes on c4, then you have just simply knight takes c4, and then black is not able to play d5, of course, on account of just knight takes e5. So play could continue bishop d8, for example. Let's say b4. And again, you just have a game, it's up for grabs, equality for both sides. course, you have bishop takes e6. Again, equal game here. So knight h2, this idea, all right? And again, knight h2, typical Ruy Lopez idea, knight g4, trading on defender, the king side. A lot of times black will be fianchettoed also, so just putting a lot of pressure in general on the position. Here, black benefits from this move because white takes away pressure from the e5 pawn. That's why I have it highlighted. Okay, so what happens now is black just takes this opportunity and plays the move d5. Again, he could have traded first, played bishop takes a2, but he plays d5 first. So either move could have been played. He plays d5, and now black doesn't have to worry about that pressure on e5, at least for the moment. So Maxime continues with his plan, plays knight hg4. Black takes. And Maxime takes with the pawn here. If he takes with the knight, then black can just take more space by playing the move d4 here. And then at this point, white pretty much has to take on e6 because the d3 pawn is kind of stuck in a bad spot, and eventually black will double up on the file and put a lot of pressure on that d pawn, and this will force white to have to play moves like bishop b1 just to protect the pawn. Bishop b1 or like rook to e3, things of that nature. It will be a very weak pawn. So by playing moves like bishop takes e6, queen takes e6, then white can close up the position, and black has a good position here. He has like a good version of maybe like a check Bononi or something, if you will. Nice comfortable position. So Maxime decided to play h takes g4. Okay, and he still has eyes on attacking the king side with moves like knight to f5 at some point. Okay, so he figures, say a move like d5, he'll hop into f5 with the knight. So d takes e4 is played. D takes e4, and now just simply rook a d8. So now this kind of ill-advised attack on the flank has cost white some time, because black is able to attack in the center, right? Following that old saying about countering a flank attack with the or how they used to say back in the day, a wing attack with the attack in the center. So you see that taking place, and now black has developed with a threat to this bishop on d2. So some exchanges take place. Bishop takes e6, and of course f takes e6. Now there's no more threat to bring the knight to f5, as that pawn on e6 takes care of both f5 and d5. So in this case, we see the benefits of double pawns here. So now that knight on e3 has to find a new employment. But how to protect the bishop on d2 at the moment, right? How to deal with that in an effective manner. So Maxime decides to play knight f1, protects the bishop, and then at some point he can reroute his knight back into the game. Knight a5. And this knight is looking for employment, because at this moment his job is done as far as the d4 square. White is not gonna let that knight hop into b4 or hop into d4, right? That c pawn is gonna stay right there. So therefore, black plays a knight a5, and his idea is either to jump into c4 with that knight, or play a move like c4, keeping the pawn on b2 backwards. And if for any reason the b2 pawn ever is advanced when black exchanges, black will then have a new target on the c file in the form of the c pawn to harass. So bishop e3 is played, offering the trade of queens here. And black just plays queen c6. Good move. Not trading queens at this moment. Game could still become very drawish, and showing his desire to win, and he's doing it with the threat also. If a move like queen d3, just try and dominate the position, this is possible also, but I think it's a little bit worse than the game continuation after queen takes d3, rook takes d3. A bunch of pieces get traded off here. I think it's just much easier, for white to continue. I like queen c6, maintain the tension in the position. Rook threatens the queen on d1, and the pawn on e4 is threatened at the same time. So queen c2 was played, and now black continued on with his plan to employ the knight on a5 with c4. So it does a lot of things for the position. Now the knight has an outpost on b3. He's improved his bishop on e7 by taking that pawn from c5 and putting it on a light square as opposed to a dark square. And also, white has his backward pawn on b2, and it will be hard to alleviate that situation without having this newfound weakness on the c file. And also there's an outpost on d3. So good move, good strategy by Amin. Game continued, knight d2. As I said, now the situation with the bishop has been resolved. Now white wants to get that knight off the unemployment line and back into the workforce with knight f3. And the idea behind f3 knight f3, as I have highlighted, is to attack the unprotected e pawn. So now we see the other side, the negative side, if you please, of the double pawns, that since they have no pawn on the side of them, they're very difficult to protect. They must be monitored by pieces, which is annoying because you want to use your pieces to attack, not necessarily to be protecting lowly pawns that are blockaded. So this move, knight f3, also has the idea of advancing the white's double pawn on g4 to g5, and potentially opening up black's king side for attack. And if black decides to avoid that by moving his pawn to h5, then he has to worry about the space gain of white on the king side. Maybe eventually a potential move like g6, where black will have to worry about some mating attack in the future. This is why black played g5 on the next move. Now I feel that he didn't have to here. It's more of a more of a prophylactic strategy, right? Because it stops one of the two ideas in his tracks. However, if he wanted to be a little more active, I guess he could have tried to play moves like rook d7, maybe with the idea of doubling up on the d file. But when you look at things, it's kind of you might say, well, what can you really do with the d file actually, right? It looks good on paper, right? Put the rook on d3, the other rook. I mean, you would dominate the only open file on the board. So maybe he was thinking that, even though it looks good, I really can't do too much. But it is an idea to play rook d7, and sample play could go knight f3, for instance. Now you got to protect the pawn. bishop f6, and maybe rook a d1, rook f d8. That's an idea. Another idea is rook f7, and the idea behind that is basically to leave the d file alone. And let's say after knight f3, bishop f6, and let's throw g5 in there this time. H takes, bishop takes, and now you have a move like a rook d3. Bishop takes, g takes. Let's throw on b4. Knight can hop in. And so now, again, you have this pretty equalized end game here. Instead of knight f3, in that variation, rook a d1 can be played. Again, just same thing with the bishop, protecting the e pawn. So it's just some different ideas I wanted to show you. Also, bishop f6 can be played right away, with some transpositional ideas. Let's say rook a d1, rook f e8, knight f3. However, just g5 was played for reasons mentioned earlier. So rook a d1 and just bishop f6, knight f3, and now knight b3 was played. Simply blocks the queen. Now that pawn on a4 is unprotected, as you can see. So rook d8 was played. Rook takes d8. And rook d1. Black played queen takes a4 here. Now, rook d1, rook takes d1 is playable to continue to simplify. However, I don't like this move right here, because what it does is it actually helps white out and brings the queen to the d file, and you'll see the significance of this right here. So let's say rook takes d1, check, queen d1, queen to a4, queen takes a4, and now queen d6, threatening check on e6 and to penetrate into black's position. Say the queen gets back. Now queen b8, king h7, say queen f8, attacking the bishop, bishop g7, queen e7, and with this general harassment of the black king. So have to be careful to avoid counterplay. It's a good lesson. So this is why on rook d1, black just simply played queen takes a4 here. And now you'll see the difference. Rook takes, bishop takes, and now queen d1. And notice that white had to use a tempi to play his queen to d1, right? Black didn't do it for him. So now black is able to get back on defense. He plays bishop c7, and the bishop works in conjunction with the queen and keeps the queen, the white queen that is on d1, from being able to penetrate the black position. So Maxime plays knight d2, and listen, in a better world for white, he would trade off the pieces here and then go into this end game that probably drawish, difficult for black to convert. All right, maybe knight d2 if queen takes. Maybe he can play queen d7 or something like that, and just really annoy black. But the problem is after knight d2, the queen can just get out of that pen and play queen d7, and now it is Vachier Lagrave who is pinned once again. But thanks to the bishop on e3, he can escape the pin. So he plays queen e2. But now, knight takes d2, queen takes d2. And now black plays queen c6, attacking this e pawn right here. Again, if he takes and goes into this endgame, this would be kind of what white is looking for, because yeah, black is technically ahead, but how easy is it to convert? All right, good luck with that. Queen takes d2, so queen c6. So black wants a little bit more out of this position before he's going to say, hey, let's go into this endgame. Queen d1. So here, Vachier Lagrave is kind of setting up a trap. Better is just like f3, just protect the pawn and then move on. But he sets a trap here. He plays queen d1. Black avoids the trap and plays a5. The idea is that if queen takes e4 here, then queen d7. Again, with the same themes mentioned earlier. Queen basically penetrates into the position and starts harassing black. That's the basic idea. This is why queen takes e4 is not played by black. Instead, he just pushes his pawns on the queen side. He plays a5. So king f1. This is a mistake here by Vachier Lagrave. Again, he probably should have just played f3 at this moment, because he figures, hey, I can get my king closer to the action. So, and he thinks the position is the same, but it's not. The position has changed fundamentally in that one move. Can you see why? Well, I know you didn't come to here to analyze yourself, so I'll give you the answer. So after king f1 was played, just simply queen takes e4. Why is that? Because now after queen d7, right, the same idea, penetrating the position, the queen on e4 can now just simply play check here on d3, forcing the exchange of queens in a favorable manner. Now this is good end game for black. So queen takes d3, c takes d3. Now he plays f3. Like I said, he should have just played f3 a while ago and avoided all of this. But hindsight is 2020. So queen takes e4, queen d7, queen d3. Okay, no counterplay. C takes d3. Now he plays f3, but black finds a killer move. And actually, I saw this myself when I went over the game, because I always look at the games without engine. I make all engines and make all my notes first. But this move, came to me immediately. It's e4, and it's basically you're putting the white king that is on house arrest. Vachier Lagrave, as many of you know by now, played this move, f takes e4, and then resigned right after bishop g3. And the reason is because the king is under house arrest. It basically cannot move. And the idea is basically just to leave that pawn sitting on d3. White cannot afford to exchange the bishops, as he will also be lost. So he basically has to keep his king where it is, because it can't cross e1. It can't go through e2. And so basically he has to just sit there and wait for the black king to come around and start eating up pawns. And that's why he resigned. His only defense here, and I was actually surprised. I don't know what the time situation was. I was actually surprised that he played this move. I see he lost that move 38, so maybe he was just moving quickly. But I'm surprised that he didn't see this. But it happens, right? To human chess players. Only the engines don't get tired. So what he should have played was just king e1. That's the only move, because now he's a little bit closer to the to this pawn here. And after king e1, bishop g3, the king is not under house arrest and can escape. Plays king d2, and then let's say e takes f3, and black is still in a difficult position, but he doesn't have to resign. But instead of bishop g3 there, black plays something different. Black plays the move bishop f4, and this is a killer move right here. All right, he has to keep the bishop there, okay, because he can't afford the capture and go into just a king and pawn endgame. So all white can really do is go to d2. E takes f3, for example. This is all sample line because Lagrave had resigned. G takes f3, bishop takes f3, and this is just real easy right here. King takes d3, and white is just totally busted here. I'll just give you some more sample. King g6, and you just march into the position. That's one example. Let's say white played, try to play, a little better. King e4, just h5. And what's going to happen is you just use the pawn on the g5 as a decoy. And you can see already from there. That's it. This is why Vachier Lagrave could not afford to go into the endgame. So if he played, so he was already lost after e4. If he played, the better move, king e1, I'm sure, black would have easily found this move just like I found this move. And also, we already saw in the game that this doesn't work. This is just more elegant. This makes the game look, a little prettier. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up button at the very least. And ChessAudiobooks is on Lee Chess. ChessAudiobooks is on chess.com. ChessAudiobooks is also on Twitter. ChessAudiobooks is on Reddit. So just hit me up on those platforms. Follow me. Whatever you want to do, challenge. And that's it, man. Let me know in the comment section how you enjoyed the video. And if you got any questions, alternate variations, things like that, let me know. And also check out my other videos. And like I said, consider supporting the channel. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you for listening.